Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is en route to South Africa for the 15th BRICS Summit. It is the first time the bloc is meeting in person since 2019. The final countdown begins for Chandrayaan-3. All eyes on Wednesday's soft landing on the moon. India's space agency says all systems are working perfectly and no contingencies are anticipated. Japan to start releasing Fukushima radioactive wastewater into the ocean from August 24th. Tokyo Electric Power Company to swiftly prepare for the water discharge as per plan. India's Praggnanandhaa enters into the Chess World Cup final, setting up a clash with world #1 Magnus Carlsen. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on his way to South Africa to attend the 15th BRICS Summit. It is the first in-person gathering of the 5 emerging world economies since the pandemic.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is taking part in the 15th edition of BRICS Summit. The leaders meet in Johannesburg from August 22nd to 24th. The summit will provide an opportunity to review progress of the initiatives launched by the grouping and identify future areas of activity.
Insofar as the BRICS expansion is concerned, we have been very clear from the start that we have a positive intent and an open mind when it comes to the BRICS expansion.
The Prime Minister will take part in the BRICS Africa Outreach and BRICS Plus dialogue. The PM has visited South Africa before, back in July 2016 and July 2018. South Africa is the current chair of the BRICS Summit. This is the first gathering of the 5 nations since 2019. A business delegation from India will also be part of the summit.
The participants are likely to deliberate on issues such as global economic recovery amid ongoing geopolitical challenges, sustainable development goals, something that would, I think, continue throughout the different sessions of the BRICS Summit, women-led development, as also addressing the concern and interest and priorities of the Global South.
After BRICS, PM Modi is also set to visit Greece. This will be the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the country in 40 years. India and Greece enjoy cultural ties which have strengthened in recent years through cooperation in several areas.
During the Honourable Prime Minister's visit to Greece, both sides will look to expand and diversify the trade and investment segment of cooperation, deepen and expand the defence and security partnership, infrastructure cooperation, shipbuilding industry, something which is a great strength of Greece and where the opportunities, extensive opportunities are there. The visit would give both sides an opportunity to discuss also the regional and global issues of mutual interest and help broaden and deepen our bilateral engagement.
It's hoped the Prime Minister's visit to both these nations will open new paths of diplomatic ties and boost economic development.
All right, Amritpal Singh is joining us to get us more on the BRICS Summit. Amrit, good morning. The Prime Minister arrives today at Johannesburg. He's already en route for the 15th BRICS Summit. What would be on the mind of the Prime Minister as he participates in the 15th BRICS Summit?
That's right. The Prime Minister arrives here in Johannesburg this evening. In fact, he's arriving in the afternoon if you talk about the Johannesburg time, but Indian time at around 5:15. The Prime Minister lands in 5:15 p.m. That is, he lands in Johannesburg. He straight goes to attend the BRICS Business Leaders Forum, where he would be interacting with the business leaders. He later goes on to attend the BRICS Leaders Retreat. As you know, the BRICS Summit is kicking off today. It will happen over today, tomorrow and day after. Over the next 3 days, we could see the Prime Minister intervene on a number of issues, which include stressing the need for greater cooperation and partnership between the developing countries, or what is commonly referred to as the Global South. Remember, this BRICS Summit comes days before India holds the Leaders Summit of the G20 in New Delhi. And under India's presidency, cooperation amongst the G20 or the amongst the Global South especially is a key priority of India. So the Prime Minister would be utilizing this forum to bring that up. He could, touch upon issues like climate change and innovative solutions to it, like lifestyle for environment or life, the reform of multilateral institutions, especially the international financial institutions like the World Bank and the IMF, so that they reflect the present realities. Cross-border terrorism is going to be on top of India's agenda at the BRICS Summit. Prime Minister Modi could push for the BRICS leaders to develop a consensus and a zero-tolerance approach for cross-border terror, of which, of course, India is a victim, but the scourge of terrorism affects the whole world. So therefore, in this grouping in which over 42% of the global population lives, is really a matter of global concern. So the Prime Minister, we could see the Prime Minister figure that or raise that prominently during his interventions at the BRICS Summit.
All right, Amrit, could there also be talk on the expansion of the BRICS Forum?
Oh yes, it will be prominently discussed. It's on the top of the agenda of the South African presidency. In fact, South Africa under its presidency has invited over 70 heads of state or government from around the world. Of course, from the African continent, but there are heads of states or government coming from Latin America, from around the world, Iran, Indonesia, etc. So expansion will figure prominently on the agenda and will be discussed at length. Over 40 countries have expressed interest in joining the BRICS, and there is a broad consensus that the time has come for this grouping to be expanded so that the voice of the Global South, of the developing countries, can be strengthened and the global governance architecture can be changed. But do not expect any major announcements at this summit in terms of countries actually joining, because there is much road to be traveled before countries can join. That is to say, they need to chalk out what the criteria for joining is, who should be admitted, who shouldn't be admitted. Countries have their different interests, have different reasons for expanding this, so a convergence needs to be brought on that. At the Johannesburg Declaration, what we could see is probably a draft resolution or a draft proposal for criteria to be evolved for who all can be admitted, what conditions or requirements countries need to meet before they can be admitted into the grouping.
All right, Amrit, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those inputs. And the Gandhi Tolstoy Farm in South Africa has a message for the BRICS leaders as they get ready to gather in Johannesburg. DD India's Amrit Pal Singh reports on this.
Two famous names, Mahatma Gandhi and Count Leo Tolstoy, come together on this blue plaque installed at the Gandhi Tolstoy Farm near Lenasia in South Africa. Mahatma Gandhi set up this ashram and lived here from 1910 to 1914. along with 75 Indian families. It was here he worked on Satyagraha based on ideas of non-violence and simple lifestyle. Tolstoy Farm became one of the cornerstones of South African passive resistance civil rights campaign against Transvaal's discriminatory laws against the Indians.
गांधी जी ने सत्याग्रह की एक्सपेरिमेंट यहाँ की थी कि सब कम्युनिटी यहाँ रह सकते थे, तो इसलिए वो उसने कलमबख्श ने दिया था। 75 फैमिली यहाँ रह रही थी और वो लोग सत्याग्रही थे, वो यहाँ फार्मिंग करते थे।
Gandhiji's message still resonates with the locals here, and they say BRICS leaders should hear it too.
I'd like to request, when the BRICS meet there, they must not forget about the Rastafarians. They are the part and the parcel of this nation, as well as our fellow brothers, that we live with the Indians. They're part of our...
This was once a 1,100-acre property where the Satyagraha experiment was born and nurtured. It was here at this historic farm in 1910 where Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi first experimented with the idea of Satyagraha, a peaceful, non-violent movement against an unjust colonial rule, which he later carries to India and implements it there, and India gains its independence. As we stand at this historic farm, the message emanating out of here is that a just, equitable, fair world order is relevant even today in the turbulent times that we live through. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at the Gandhi Tolstoy Farm in South Africa.
Indian spacecraft Chandrayaan-3 is looking to find a perfect landing spot on the moon's challenging terrain. Indian Space Agency ISRO released images of possible landing sites on Monday. Meanwhile, Chandrayaan-3 has established contact with Chandrayaan-2 orbiter, the previous iteration of the Indian moon mission that was launched in 2014.
Chandrayaan-3 has started the process of identifying safe landing areas on the surface of the moon. The Indian Space Research Agency ISRO on Monday released images of possible sites. A special camera on board Chandrayaan-3 is locating safe areas without boulders or deep trenches. The Indian Space Research Organization informed that the lander Vikram, that has been orbiting the moon since August 5, has now established two-way communication with Chandrayaan-2 orbiter. According to the Indian Space Agency, the lander module with the rover is likely to touch down on the surface of the moon at around 6:04 p.m. on Wednesday, 23rd August. Chandrayaan-3, which was launched on July 14, is an ambitious mission of ISRO. Its primary objective is putting a lander and rover in the highlands near the south pole of the moon and demonstrating end-to-end landing and roving capabilities. It will also take a number of scientific measurements on the surface and from orbit. Achieving a soft landing is the most challenging part of the mission. If successful, Chandrayaan-3 will mark India's entry into a club of countries comprising the US, Russia and China that have successfully accomplished lunar landings. Raghav Kumar Jha reporting for DD India.
Former ISRO chairman Dr. K. Sivan spoke exclusively to DD India. He said that Chandrayaan-3 is expected to be successful as it has ample redundancy features and can make a soft landing with self-corrections built into the system.
Chandrayaan-3 is all set to make a soft landing and touchdown on the surface of the moon on August 23rd. And this is a very crucial mission. All eyes are on India's ISRO, and the scientific community is excited about this mission. Let's take forward the conversation with Dr. K. Sivan. Thank you for talking to Doordarshan, DD News and DD India. So what does it mean to India with this kind of soft landing, and where does it put India in the big league of the spacefaring nations? And also, we've been talking about interplanetary missions, we've been talking about solar mission. There are a lot of missions ahead. So where does this put India in the spacefaring nations?
Say this the soft landing on the moon it will give India this new technology, with which we can land safely on a celestial body. That's the technology the India will gain.
Okay.
So by the process, we will be that one among the 4 nations where has the capability.
Yes.
That way, that is one good thing.
Right.
And the second one is this, that this particular mission is going near South Pole region, which is a shadow region, unexplored region. So scientists are feeling that it may give new science.
Okay.
So that way, this mission is going to give data for the scientific community of India, and for that matter, for the whole world.
Yeah. So what makes the scientists confident that this landing is going to be almost perfect and almost close to the 100% soft landing? What makes the team confident?
3 types of improvements have been incorporated. And with these 3 types of improvements, this operational regime of the lander, the technically, the scientifically, that is the region with which this is working is enhanced.
Yes.
So with that one, we have confidence.
Right.
And anytime that one thing I am telling you, it is not that here we have the 100% confidence, whereas Chandrayaan only 50% confidence. It is not like that.
It is equal confidence that all the scientists have.
All the time that we are going ahead with the full confidence only. Without confidence, we won't launch.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about Pragyan. What all Pragyan will do once it starts, once it is deployed by the lander. What are we expecting? How will that be tracked? Because we are told that it connects with the lander, Vikram, and then from there the data is relayed. How does that work? Can you just
see that Pragyan is actually the rover.
Yes.
So once the lander is landed safely, that is 2 hours after that, the Pragyan will come out.
Yes.
And from that time onwards, it will be roving over the surface of the moon. And at that time, it will do the scientific experiments also.
Right.
And the communications with the ground is through lander.
Thank you very much for talking to DD India, sir. Thank you so much. That was Dr. K. Sivan ending on a very positive note and hoping all success for Chandrayaan 3, and as confident as he was before when CH3, that is Chandrayaan 2, was launched. With cameraman Balu, Asha Khanam, DD India, Bangalore.
And it has been, in fact, a dynamic journey so far for the Indian Space Research Organization. Since its inception in 1969 and to this day when it is now ready to launch Chandrayaan 3. Up next, we're heading for a short break. But when we come back on the other side of the break, Japan decides to release more than 1 million metric tons of treated radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant on August 24. Donald Trump plans to turn himself in and be processed at the Fulton County Jail in Georgia on Thursday. The former president says the indictment is politically motivated. Think again, fentanyl kills. The electronic message lit up a billboard in New York's Times Square on the National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day.
Swagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
Welcome to Chandigarh.
You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's continue getting you international updates. Japan's government will start releasing treated water from the record Fukushima nuclear power plant starting August 24th. Japan says it will remove most radioactive elements from the water except for tritium, a hydrogen isotope that must be diluted because of the difficulty to be filtered out. The Chinese government has voiced strong opposition on multiple occasions to Japan's decision to discharge treated nuclear wastewater into the ocean. The country has accumulated more than 1 million tons of wastewater used to cool the Fukushima nuclear power plant since the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. Chris Gilbert joins us with more. Chris, good morning. We've told our viewers that Japan plans to begin the release of the radioactive water from August 24. And also we learned that it is going to be a phased process through which the water will be released. Let us get more details from you as to how will Japan facilitate and execute the release of the radioactive water into the ocean.
Yeah, well, it's been 10 years in the making, this plan, and there's been a lot of speculation about when it was going to start. There was expectation that it may have been some months ago in the Northern Hemisphere spring, but that was delayed by the government to get the rubber stamp from the International Atomic Energy Agency, which came in July, saying that the project meets international safety standards. And then earlier in August, there were leaked reports through Japanese newspapers that it may begin towards the end of this month. And then after the trilateral summit that we just saw between Japan, South Korea and the US at the weekend. And as soon as the Prime Minister Fumio Kishida was back in Japan from that, he was straight up to Fukushima, meeting with TIPCO officials from the agency that's going to run this discharge facility, and also meeting with the fishers up there. And now, after meeting with cabinet and ministers this morning here in Tokyo at his official residence, it has been announced that they want to release it as soon as this Thursday, some 12 and a half years almost after the tsunami that created this mess. And now it looks like the cleanup is going to continue, as you mentioned, in a phased process over the next 40 years until the discharge is completed, affecting generations to come.
All right, Chris, also we've seen how the Japanese government, the Japanese Prime Minister has been facing domestic and international criticism over this decision. And also we've seen how China has in fact called this as a nuclear sewage. Let us get more inputs from you. Now that when a date has been finalized for Japan to begin the release of radioactive water into the ocean, do we have more international or domestic reactions coming in?
There's sure to be international and domestic reaction. It is going to be a very long process, and many countries such as China have already made it very clear how they feel about it. And there is going to be international fallout. No doubt the government of Japan is expecting this and has prepared for it. It should be remembered that countries in the world such as Canada, France, the UK, South Korea and China are already discharging tritiated water from their nuclear facilities, and it also should be remembered who this discharge is going to affect most, which is going to be the communities along the Tohoku coastline, all the way from the very top of Japan almost down to Tokyo, who have already lost everything 12 years ago, their homes, their loved ones, and through the last 12 years have tried to rebuild and are now being asked by the government to carry the burden and the weight of this cleanup in their communities for another 40. And so there is surely going to be continued domestic reaction from the fishers and from the communities as they continue to live alongside this human-made cleanup.
All right, Chris, thank you for joining in with those inputs. And from here, we now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Donald Trump will face a $200,000 bond and has been ordered not to send threatening social media messages. This is according to a court filing on Monday. Trump is the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. He and 18 co-defendants were indicted in the Georgia election interference case on August 14th. The former president is expected to turn himself in on Thursday. He rejects the charges and says they are politically motivated. Cambodia is set to get a new prime minister on Tuesday after nearly 4 decades. The country's outgoing prime minister, Hun Sen, ruled for almost 40 years, and he will now hand over the power to his 45-year-old son, Hun Manet. Hun Sen's Cambodia People's Party swept the elections last month and has got another 5-year term. Voting begins in Zimbabwe on Wednesday. The main opposition party, the Citizens Coalition for Change, held its final rally on Monday in the country's capital, Harare. The current president, ZANU-PF's octogenarian Emmerson Mnangagwa, became the president in 2018 after a coup ousted former leader Robert Mugabe in 2017. Notably, 1/6 of the registered electorate are first-time voters. Ecuador will witness a face-off between leftist Luisa Gonzalez and banana industry here Daniel Noboa in the presidency runoff in October this year. In the first round of voting, Gonzalez, a protege of former President Rafael Correa, got 33% of the votes. Noboa finished second with 24% of the votes. The assassination of anti-corruption candidate Fernando Villavicencio has overshadowed the polls. Villavicencio's candidacy was replaced by his fellow investigative journalist Kristen Zurita, who finished third with 16% of the vote. Also, the billboards of New York's Times Square displayed awareness campaign against the synthetic opioid fentanyl. According to the U.S. disease control body, almost 70% of the deaths from drug overdose in the country last year was related to opioids like fentanyl. Also, fentanyl is almost 50 times more potent than heroin. And still to come on DD India News Hour, U.S. President Joe Biden visits Maui after the devastating wildfires. Tells the survivors that the nation grieves with you. Mayor says 850 people are still missing. A human rights group has come down heavily on Saudi Arabian border guards, accusing them of mass-killing migrants along the Yemen-Saudi border. India to launch Bharat New Car Assessment Program aims to increase the safety standards of Indian automobiles.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour, and I'm Preeti. Let's quickly get you a recap of the top stories. We're cracking this out. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is en route to South Africa for the 15th BRICS Summit. It is for the first time the bloc is meeting in person since 2019. A final countdown begins for Chandrayaan-3. All eyes on Wednesday's soft landing on the moon. India's space agency says all systems are working perfectly and no contingencies are anticipated. Japan to start releasing Fukushima radioactive wastewater into the ocean from August 24th. Tokyo Electric Power Company to swiftly prepare for the water discharge as per plan. India's Praggnanandhaa enters into the Chess World Cup final, setting up a clash with world number 1 Magnus Carlsen. US President Joe Biden is in Hawaii, visiting parts of the island state hit by deadly wildfires. More than 100 people died and 800 are still missing. Biden is being criticized for not visiting the island earlier. Caroline Malone reports from Washington on this.
It's been 2 weeks since wildfires devastated parts of Hawaii. And on Tuesday, US President Joe Biden touched down on the island to visit along with the First Lady Jill Biden. He's been criticized, though, for not getting there fast enough. There may at the moment be more than 1,000 federal emergency responders, but there's also some concern over funding to help people on the island. The head of the Federal Emergency Agency said on Sunday, there's so much demand for money from the National Disaster Relief Fund that some causes may have to be delayed until next year. That, as data comes out saying the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration has 15 weather-related or climate disaster events on their books in the US, even before the Hawaii disaster happened on August 8th this year. Each of those has cost $1 billion in damage. Hawaii is likely to cost even more. We're looking at an estimated $6 billion in damage. And that's even only as the hurricane season gets started here. At the moment, we're already seeing the West Coast hit by floods from Tropical Storm Hillary, and that has really impacted large parts of Southern California. There are also calls for President Biden to declare a climate state of emergency. Some politicians here saying when you've got more than 100 people who've died, more than 800 missing, and entire towns devastated, then if that isn't a climate emergency in Hawaii, then what is? If Biden did call it a climate emergency, it could allow Congress to invoke emergency powers, potentially for policy change, potentially to slow down greenhouse gas emissions, have large-scale transport changes, potentially more impactful than we've had before in the US. But with many things here, it is a political risk. Many don't call this climate change. Many favor continuing to use oil and gas despite the carbon pollution from it. Now, the White House is saying that Biden has effectively been calling this a climate emergency for some time, and that they and Biden are taking all the necessary action needed for people in Hawaii. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
Hundreds of wildfires in the western Canadian province of British Columbia have resulted in a thick blanket of smog engulfing cities like Vancouver. Wildfire smoke is a seasonal occurrence with densely wooded British Columbia. Number of wildfires and quantity of area burned growing as a result of climate change, raising concerns and impacting human health. The entire province was shrouded in smoke, with the largest concentration in the southern interior. Fires over the past 4 days had forced 35,000 people to flee. Environment Canada issued air quality advisories for British Columbia's southern half, where smog hung in the city. Greece's northern woodlands have been impacted by wildfires as the country experiences more harsh weather. Strong winds fueled wildfires. Some communities have been evacuated and at least one death has been reported in the country's northeast. Summer wildfires are common in Greece, but in recent years they have been made worse by unusually hot, dry and windy weather that scientists have linked to climate change. A new heat wave, Nero, has hit Europe with high temperatures persisting in the Italian cities of Rome and Milan. Nero will bring temperatures of up to 38 degrees in various Italian regions for at least 5 days, with high humidity levels. A heat wave swept southern Europe last month with sweltering temperatures, heightening the risk of fire and fatalities. An Ecuadorian referendum to restrict oil drilling in the Amazon and mining in a forest near Quito easily passed. Indigenous leaders have cheered the decision amid fears that it could bring revenue loss in the oil and mining sectors. Roughly 60% of people voted against expanding oil exploration in the Yasuni National Park. Now, Yasuni contains 650 tree species and hundreds of animal species. Saudi Arabian border guards have been accused of mass-killing migrants along the Yemen-Saudi border in a new report by Human Rights Watch. The report is based on interviews with over 38 Ethiopian migrants and their family members who tried to cross into Saudi Arabia between March 2022 and June 2023. Human Rights Watch has also said that they in fact analyzed hundreds of photos, videos and satellite imagery to come to this conclusion. The human rights group's lead researcher described the findings as obscene.
So this report, they fired on us like rain, documents mass killings at the Saudi-Yemen border. We have run an intensive and massive investigation into the fact that Saudi border guards are firing explosive weapons and shooting at close range Ethiopian migrants and asylum seekers trying to cross from Yemen into Saudi Arabia.
The report said that Saudi guards used explosive weapons to shoot migrants from close range.
2 years ago, I went to Saudi via Djibouti, thinking I would find a job to change my family's and my life. I came back to my family empty-handed and with only one leg. We were 45 in number and only 3 survived, of that I'm sure. I called them all and managed to speak to 3 of them. The rest are unreachable. The rest only God knows that what happened to them.
Senegal brought home 37 migrants who were rescued after a ship capsized, killing more than 60 people on board. The survivors were rescued off the coast of Cape Verde last week after their boat was stranded without fuel in the Atlantic Ocean for weeks. Some were taken off a plane on stretchers, too weak to stand after their ordeal. The vessel was found by a Spanish fishing boat drifting off the island on August 15th, hundreds of miles off the course. About 38 were rescued, but more than 60 are missing, presumed to be dead. Denmark and the Netherlands have promised to donate F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. Now, this comes a few days after the U.S. approved the delivery. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says F-16 will be a game changer in the war against Russia. A detailed report ahead.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday the promised delivery of F-16 fighter jets made him confident Ukraine will defeat Russia. Thousands of people gathered outside Parliament in Copenhagen to hear him speak.
Dear friends, today we are confident that Russia will lose this war.
Denmark and the Netherlands announced on Sunday they would supply the first US-made F-16s to Ukraine, after Washington gave its approval. The first 6 jets are due to be delivered around New Year.
The main thing is what we prove with our victory, with our cooperation, what you prove supporting Ukraine. Together, we prove that life is a value, that people matter, freedom matters, Europe matters.
Russia warned supplying the jets to Ukraine would only escalate the war, which has dragged on for a year and a half. Ukraine's Air Force said the jet was vital to the success of its counter-offensive, which has so far been slow, because it would prevent Russian fighter jets attacking advancing forces. Danish Defence Minister Jakob Ellemann-Jensen said Ukraine may only use the donated F-16s within its own territory. Denmark will deliver 19 jets in total. The Netherlands has 42 F-16s available, but has yet to decide whether to donate all of them. Zelensky has called the decision a breakthrough. Ukrainian pilots have begun training, Defence Minister Alexei Reznikov said on Saturday, but it will take at least 6 months to train engineers and mechanics.
Greece will train Ukraine's Air Force pilots to fly the F-16s. Officials say F-16 training will also take place in Denmark and Romania. The training is expected to take 6 months.
Greece will participate in training of our pilots for F-16. I'm grateful for this proposal and thank you and your team for being ready to help us more in defending our freedom.
2 people have been injured in the Russian capital of Moscow. Russia's air defense destroyed a Ukrainian drone, parts of which fell on a house near Moscow. Also, 90 flights in and out of the capital were disrupted after the drone was intercepted. Russian Defense Ministry said that it has also downed 2 drones in the Belgorod region that in fact borders Ukraine. And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines. The Principal Secretary to India's Prime Minister has chaired a high-level meeting to review the current status and preparedness of COVID-19 in the country. There are concerns over the new variant, but officials say that only 223 cases were reported in India in the past week. The government has asked the state to maintain close watch on the new global variants of the COVID pandemic. A much-awaited Bharat New Car Assessment Program will be launched by India's Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, on Tuesday. This new program aims to increase the safety standards of Indian automobiles and bring them up to the international standards. This new program will crash test the cars voluntarily offered by manufacturers in the country. After comprehensive crash tests, the cars will be given safety ratings. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the income tax return figures highlighted that people's trust in the government is getting stronger. Prime Minister Modi has stressed that the robust policy of his government has steered India to become the 5th largest economy of the world. Actor Sunny Deol's starer Gadar 2 continues to smash the box office, making a business of around $4 billion in just 10 days since its release. The movie is the sequel to Gadar, Ek Prem Katha, which was a 2001 film set against the backdrop of partition of India in 1947. We're heading for a short break. Stay with us.
गर फिरदौस बर्रुए ज़मी अस्त हमी अस्तो हमी अस्तो हमी अस्त Jammu and Kashmir, nature's finest works. A land of verdant valleys, pristine lakes, striking autumns, unforgettable majestic beauty. A place of unwavering devotion, wholehearted smiles, and warm hospitality. World-famous for its exquisite artistry. Leader in diverse agricultural products. Heartland of winter sports. Jammu and Kashmir is vibrant, diverse, ambitious, future-focused. Full of life. Welcome to heaven on earth.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News On, and I'm Preeti. Let's take a look at business updates now. US stocks were mostly higher on Monday, with the tech-heavy Nasdaq leading the gains. This week, investors will be watching for clues about the health of the US economy and also whether interest rates will be hiked once again. Sally Patterson reports on this.
Last week was a tough one for US markets. The S&P 500 booked a third straight week of losses, while the Nasdaq and Dow also finished Friday with weekly losses. This week, we're expecting to hear from several Federal Reserve officials who could shed some light on the central bank's rate decision next month. Many market watchers predict the Fed is likely to remain hawkish as it tries to bring inflation back to its 2% target. In other news, Domino's Pizza announced on Monday it will close all its outlets in Russia. It's the latest Western fast food chain to leave the country following McDonald's and Starbucks, which left more than a year ago after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, DP Eurasia, which owns franchise rights for Domino's Pizza in Russia and in some Eastern European countries, said it would file for bankruptcy for its Russian unit. The company operates 142 stores in Russia and is the country's third largest pizza delivery business. It says it's too early to determine the financial impact of a potential insolvency. The S&P finished the day up 0.7%, the Dow closed the day down 0.1%, and the Nasdaq closed up 1.6%. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Asian currencies managed a recovery on Tuesday despite the US Treasury yields. The offshore yuan was back below 7.3 to the dollar on bets of tightening up of offshore yuan liquidity. China's central bank trimmed its one-year lending rate by 10 basis points and left its five-year rate unmoved. Now, this was a surprise to many analysts who had expected cuts of 15 basis points. Oil prices edged lower on Tuesday as the markets waited to see if Iraqi oil exports would resume. Now, this could ease some supply tightness caused by a cut from the group of oil-producing nations, that is OPEC+. A faltering Chinese economy continued to undercut the global demand outlook. Brent crude was down 8 cents a barrel, and the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was trading 7 cents lower. Experts say that crude oil struggled to keep its head above water on signs of supply tightness easing. Headline inflation in Sri Lanka for the month of July dropped to 4.6% from 10.8% seen in June. Tight monetary and fiscal policy measures are being attributed for the drop. Sri Lanka faced runaway inflation of around 70% last September. With Indian assistance, the island nation managed to continue to implement key policy changes to ease the challenge of inflation. The central bank cut policy rates by 450 basis points in June and July this year. Colombo consumer price inflation had recorded a figure of 6% for the month of June. Up next, we get you sports updates. Talking of chess first, India's Praggnanandhaa has created history at the FIDE World Cup in Baku, Azerbaijan. Continuing his dream run, Praggnanandhaa took world number 3 Fabiano Caruana out of his comfort zone, pulled him out into shorter time control games and nailed him for the title. The Indian prodigy will now play against world number 1 Magnus Carlsen in the final. Praggnanandhaa has now become the third youngest to qualify for the candidates tournament after Bobby Fischer and Magnus Carlsen. He is also the first Indian to reach the World Cup final since the knockout format was introduced in 2005. And India has unveiled its 17-member cricket squad for the 2023 Asia Cup. Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul are returning to the Indian dressing room.
India announced its 17-member travelling squad for the 2023 Asia Cup on Monday, followed by a press conference from Captain Rohit Sharma and Chief Selector Ajit Agarkar in Delhi. Wicketkeeper batter KL Rahul and middle-order batter Shreyas Iyer make a return to the squad, which includes Hyderabad batter Tilak Verma. While Verma has been included as an additional batsman, fast bowler Prasidh Krishna returns after a long injury layoff. Ishan Kishan was chosen over Sanju Samson as the second wicketkeeper. But Samson will travel to Sri Lanka as a reserve player. The full squad are Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli, Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, Kuldeep Yadav, Surya Kumar Yadav, Tilak Verma, Ishan Kishan, Hardik Pandya, Ravindra Jadeja, Prasidh Krishna, Akshar Patel, Shardul Thakur, Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami and Mohammad Siraj. India will face off against arch rivals Pakistan in a Group A match on September 2nd in Kandy. Nepal is the other team grouped alongside India and Pakistan. With the ODI World Cup in sights, India's performance in the continental tournament will be key to their chances at the marquee event later this year at home. Sports Desk, DD India.
All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can also connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.